and good evening. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Veronica Laizure. I'm a Civil Rights Director, and I'm here to talk to you tonight about civil rights, human rights, and the human connections that drive the social justice movement in our state. I want to start off by talking a little bit about intersectionality. This is a term coined by legal scholar Kimberly Crenshaw specifically to describe the experiences of Black women with racism and sexism, but our analysis has expanded to take into account the different factors that affect the way we move through the world and the systems that govern it. Our state has a dark and troubled history when it comes to oppression. Native Americans and the legacy of colonialism, race relations, and the legacy of the Tulsa race massacre, and Oklahoma City, the site of the worst, most deadly domestic terror attack in the country. So we struggle together with misogyny, with poverty, with lack of access to good education and to strong healthcare systems. These are struggles common to all Oklahomans, but as we can understand and imagine, they affect people in slightly different ways. Khalid Jabbar was murdered in 2016 by his neighbor, Stanley Majors, after a year of anti-Muslim threats and harassment and attacks. Although Stanley Majors pled insanity, he was convicted of hate crime and first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison, where he then died. In this case, what went wrong was that after years of continuing threats against the Jabbar family, Majors still was able to be released on a relatively low bond and obtain a firearm, which he then used to shoot and kill Khalid on his own front porch. The grieving Jabbar family recognized that although the systems that exist to protect victims of crimes worked as well as they were intended, the family still got lost in the shuffle and then had to live through the tragedy of losing a beloved family member. In Oklahoma, almost 60% of domestic violence-related homicides involves a firearm, and Oklahoma struggles as the second in the nation for adults that have undiagnosed or untreated mental illnesses. And even more troubling, 60% of Oklahoma Muslims who responded to a 2016 survey reported experiencing discrimination or harassment because of their faith just in the most recent year. So our state is no stranger to the struggles that come in a case like Khalid Jabbar's. So what happens to us in our early childhood experiences with trauma, with bullying, harassment, abuse, and neglect, they cause us trauma that we live with in our adult lives, and this leads to disenfranchisement when we feel disengaged from the systems that govern our world and the way that we move through it. This has a global impact. When only 36% of Oklahomans vote in elections, it leads to leadership that passes things like the Muslim ban, the most discriminatory piece of legislation we've seen in a very long time in American history. So what helps us navigate these systems? What helps us solve these problems? A framework of racial justice, of support for our diverse communities, and building friendships and relationships with people who believe and worship differently than ourselves. This all helps us to gain a more holistic understanding of the world. Robust education systems, learning how to de-escalate and to solve conflict without violence, and a justice system that truly protects and serves everyone who gets involved with it on either side of the bench. How we do this requires vulnerability, empathy, and the courage to break out of your comfort zone, to take charge of the future, and see what we can build together here in our own communities and our own state. Diversity means you're in the room. Inclusion means you have a seat at the table. Equity means your voice is heard and appreciated and your contributions are used. And this leads to a more just community, one that's stronger and benefits all of us in the ways that we need. Civic engagement is part of our responsibility. We have to vote. We have to learn about the issues at stake, the issues we'll face at the ballot, and we have to advocate. We have to push our elected leaders to make the right decisions by joining these coalitions and bring them to their awareness. When we end discrimination, we bring economic prosperity for everybody. This builds healthier families and leads to this brighter future that enables our whole selves to thrive. This builds a community that benefits everybody, where we are all able to live, act, and vote according to our conscience. Civil rights, our rights to vote, to get an education, to access health care, to worship as we choose according to our conscience. These are our human rights, our rights to our own opinions, our rights to happiness, and to live a good and fulfilled life. My name is Veronica Laizure. You can reach me in any of the contact information listed here. I love to hear from folks, and I love to talk about the issues facing our state and the ways that we can make things better. If you're interested about the work of CARE Oklahoma, we're all over social media and we stay very active. You can always connect with us, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We love to hear from the rest of the community about the great work that you're doing and the ways that we can work together to build a stronger Oklahoma. Thank you.